That's the Fooly Cooly sequels. They don't exist to me. They're dead to me. Unironically, they're so bad. It's so fucking bad, dude. I know I've rambled about this before, but the fact that in the first, I only watched the first sequel, not the second sequel. In the first sequel, Haruko like cries and has a breakdown and reveals that she actually loved Adamisk is legitimately one of the most disgusting fucking media illiterate piece of shit. My life is just a string of violent fantasies that my mind conjures against the people who wrote that scene. That is insane to me. The whole fucking point of Fooly Cooly was that everyone misunderstood Haruko because they were projecting their boyish, like lustful egotism and jealousy onto her, and they assumed that her interests were in Adamisk as a man, but she's just a power-hungry piece of shit. It was so good. It was so important in the first one. It's critical to Haruko's character that she not be capable of feeling real love. That's essential. And then in the second one, they're like, oh yeah, well actually she like really wanted the Phoenix stick, the thick. God, it was so fucking bad. And they never did anything with the main character's thing, by the way. They implied multiple times that the main character in the first sequel series was had a guru fetish. That she like got sexually aroused by dreams that she had of like zombies and like flesh falling apart and stuff. I thought they were gonna like do some commentary on like psychosis or like really weird shit like that. I thought they were going somewhere with that, but then it turns out they weren't. It was just like aesthetic. It was just like aesthetic edgy bullshit. Fooly Cooly never introduced anything they weren't willing to thematically develop, and then the sequel series is like, okay, we're building off a really cool like edgy show from like 2000 or whatever. All right, how do we maintain that edge level? What if we imply that our protag gets off to like dead bodies or whatever? Oh, that's cool. Do we want to like work that into the theming or character development? Do we want to like make that interesting in any way? No, we'll just have like a separate animation team come in for these like 20-second segments in every episode where zombies are flitting around. Great, phenomenal. Thank you. Good job. Great. Yeah, I know more sequels are going to come out. Yeah, whatever. I always thought the first Fooly Cooly was about child grooming and how no one cares the woman doesn't. Well, it's about a lot of things, but broadly, yeah. The whole point is that like Naota is a young man who dreams of being an adult but is deeply immature himself and can't reconcile that. All the adult figures in his life are themselves deeply immature, so he has a bad understanding of what it means to be an adult. And then Haruko comes along, and Haruko, who is an adult, doesn't act like one, but she's, frankly, sexually aggressive enough that he's able to, like, lower his guard on that. And the whole show is giving you warning signs the entire time. It's very obvious that Haruko is a bad person, but you keep getting things framed through Naota's, like, youthful optimism about the idea of getting like led around in a way that he finds pleasant or pleasurable or ideal. And the longer it goes on, the more it becomes clear that that's a fantasy, it's not real, and that in reality all Haruko is a victim of abuse. As is Mamimi, who was abused by Naota's older brother, and when Naota's older brother went to America, Mamimi channels that abuse onto Naota. So Naota is getting sexually abused by Mamimi, a high school student, even though Naota is 12, and then fucking Haruko comes along, and Haruko is older and more abusive than Mamimi, but also a lot smarter and more manipulative. So Naota, like, looks at that and thinks, like, oh, see, now I have to protect Mamimi from Naota, or from Haruko, and Haruko is, like, charismatic enough to work through Naoto's defenses, and you get through, and this is all in 6 episodes, and the whole point of this at the end of the day is that it was all incredibly fucked up. I can't keep up, oh shit. Just watch it's a really good anime. The overwhelming, like, don't Pepe mods. The lesson from the entire anime is that Haruko is a manipulative piece of shit. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. In a world where anime is overwhelmingly a vessel for, like, justifying pedophilia, Fooly Cooly dares to defy tradition by A, being good, and B, more importantly, by, like, thematically building itself entirely around the idea that idealizing having, like, an older woman come into a young man's life to, like, sexually enchant him is actually incredibly fucked up. And that any woman who would actually do that has to herself either A, be fucked up, like Mamimi, or B, being after something else, like Haruko. The fact that Haruko was after something else was critical to the relationship between Naota and Haruko developing at the end of episode 6, but the difference between the Haruko that exists and the Haruko that was produced by the the sequel series, is that Haruko's real interest wasn't love from an older man. Haruko's real interest was power. She didn't actually care about love because she's incapable of it. And then the sequel series is like, yeah, actually, she just really liked the Phoenix dude. But the point was that the idea that Haruko could be doing all of this for the sake of a man was an immature fantasy that was devised by Commander Amaro. Commander Amaro was jealous of fucking Adamisk because he was afraid that Haruko was like shacking up with him, and he was a previous like fucking abuse victim of Haruko, who's way the fuck older than she looks. Stunlock right out the gate. It's a good show. I'm completely right, by the way. Nothing that I'm saying is incoherent. It's all completely correct. I'm 100% on board with this, you know. We don't care, please move on. All right, I'm continuing. Fuck you. Yeah, okay. So basically, right, like a really, really, really common trope in anime is the idea that there's like an older character who's like a manic pixie dream girl or guy, but they're older, right? Like, it's really, really common for young girls to be enchanted by older men or vice versa. Even if it's like a high school guy or girl or whatever, there's a lot of creepy shit that gets fetishized in anime because, like, a lot of young people in real life, like real life young people, do fantasize about fucking older people. That doesn't mean it's a good thing or that it should happen, but that's like, of course, you know, I was a 13-year-old boy. I had hot teachers, obviously. But there's a huge difference between the immature, like, juvenile fantasy of, like, fucking your hot teacher and the reality of being groomed and abused by your teacher. These two things are worlds apart. And I don't think it's very productive to run around to every 13-year-old telling them, like, you think it'd be fun to fuck your hot social studies teacher? You piece of shit. Like, what are you doing, right? So instead of running around beating people over the head with the horny bat or whatever, instead, you know, you craft a piece of media that, like, gets at the core of the issue. And the core of the issue is that Naota only ever suffered for his relationships with older women. Mamimi sexually abused him and robbed him of his time and his self-esteem and made him feel really weird, like a surrogate for his brother. And like Haruko, like constantly threatened his life, you know, as a way of attaining personal power. That's why it's so powerful at the end of the at the way that things resolve at the end of fucking episode 6, because at the end of episode 6 in Fooly Cooly, Naota, who is weak, makes the wrong choice. Oh wait, how do I set this up? Okay, you all are going to be so mad. I'm talking about this for like 5 more minutes, then we're going to stop talking about politics. Okay, so basically, Commander Amaro is an older man who used to be abused by Haruko for the same reason that Naota is being abused now. Haruko is basically like searching for a guy that can help her get power by like finding a key. It's complicated and also highly metaphorical. The thing is, Commander Amaro, he's the eyebrows guy. You've all seen this guy. Commander Amaro. Commander Amaro is literally like a man-child. He's really immature. He's not particularly masculine, and the show comments on that. He's not an ideal guy, and Naota knows this, so Naota doesn't really trust much of what Commander Amaro has to say. He's also kind of like... He's kind of like a MGTOW, basically. He was kind of a MGTOW before MGTOWs were a thing. The eyebrows represent fake confidence, by the way. Yeah, he's kind of a MGTOW, a little bit. But anyway, the point is, like, even though Commander Amaro is immature and a kind of like a weirdly sexually harassy, creepy, like, dumb guy... he's right in one respect, and it's that he understands that Haruko is a threat and not actually trying to do what Naruto, oh my god, what Naota thinks she's trying to do, you know? So at the end of episode 6, there's a confrontation bit where fucking Commander Amaro is talking to Naota, and Commander Amaro is like, Naota, like, she's just using you. You gotta pull it together, okay? You gotta put your dick back in your pants, man. This is not working out in your favor, alright? She's literally gonna end the world. And Naota makes the wrong choice. Naota decides to serve Haruko, the villain, instead. And the finale is Naota trying and failing to overcome his sense of attachment towards this, like, surrogate older sister, like, familial love figure. That's why it's so important. What anime is this? Fooly Cooly. You get what I'm talking... Wait, you guys are following what I'm talking about, right? Commander Amaro is like, hey, get the fuck away from her. Naota goes to her anyway. Gets used as part of the fucking world extermination brain flattening scheme. And then only afterwards, when he absorbs Adamisk's power, does he fight Haruko. And then while fighting Haruko, he stops before killing her and says that he loves her instead. And only after he does that does Adamus escape. Haruko realizes she never had a chance at taking away power from Adamus anyway. Adamus leaves, completely indifferent to the suffering of the people below him, and Naota never really learns. I mean, he doesn't fully learn, right? Like, that's kind of the point. You have no clue what we're talking about plot-wise? The point is, at the end of the story, Naota is not personally strong enough to recognize that he's being abused by an older woman. It takes the older woman leaving of her own accord for him to realize that. I think it's a really powerful commentary on the fact that some kinds of abuse are basically invisible except in retrospect. Only afterwards was Naota able to look back on everything that happened and realize how significant it was and how bad it was. But at the time, even after all the evidence had been presented to Naota, he still kept simping for Haruko. Haruko wasn't beaten. Naota could have killed her. He didn't because he was still sentimental. Haruko only left because he was continuing to chase Adamus. Or she was continuing to chase Adamus. And only after leaving does Naota have to pick up like the ruins of his life and realize that he was abused throughout the entire time. That's a really powerful message, right? And it's much more realistic than the idea that like people who are being abused and groomed can just have like a big speech thrown at them and they're like, oh, right, that's right, I am being abused. And then they fight against their abuser. That's not how that works. Oh, I mean, it can be, but it's not usually how it works. You know, the fact that he's only able to realize this in retrospect, the last couple minutes of the final episode are just him trying to, like, get his life together at the end, you know? It's not like him having a big realization. He probably, at the end of the show, still falls asleep every night thinking of Haruko. But that's the whole point. Commander Amuro is like the textbook example of how to handle abuse poorly in the end, because he was abused by Haruko, and he took those negative feelings with him in his entire life, developing this fake pseudo-masculine cold shell of a personality that distanced him from the feelings of others and from himself. But now Naota has an example of what not to do. Commander Amuro was strong enough to realize that what happened was bad, but not strong enough to respond to it appropriately. Naota needs to grow up and realize that he, not only that what happened was bad, but also that he doesn't need to turn out the way Amuro did.